Mike, you just had a great question. Why don't you repeat that question?
So yeah, I have, as you can see here, we have the map assembled. Now I just want to make sure, if you intend on playing this, pay no attention to what's coming up. All right, just turn off your eyes and just listen to this, because we don't want you to solve it beforehand or anything. But so during the course of the adventure, Harley, people are going to encounter this, correct? Well, I'll put this here.
Yes.
But it's going
No,
to
you're right. You have the Alembic Key. Yeah, and it's a relic that the player characters might discover. And so yeah, spoiler alert. Okay, so the Alembic Key, it has 4 symbols around the outside circumference and 4 symbols on the inside circumference. Now with this key, however the player characters rotate it, your map does the exact same. So right now, if I'm looking at yours correctly, you have chaos facing tied to the worm, right?
I believe so.
Yes.
I mean, this is the worm down here.
Yes,
So
that's the worm, and you have chaos, that empty part of the map, the missing elemental sphere, right? Okay. All right. So now, if I were a player character in your game, and I'm like, all right, well, how does this crazy artifact work? And I would, and I could spin, I could spin, chaos, away from the zodiac or the worm. I could spin chaos. Let's just do it like one rotation, clockwise, right? And so that puts chaos in the wolf.
So right. So then behind the scenes, the judge would be adjusting the board in such a matter, correct?
Yes. And at the same time, and this wasn't your question, but at the same time, all the sub maps, the elemental spheres, would then all spin out 180 degrees.
Okay. All right. So then this would turn around 180 degrees like that, and then this would turn 100 degrees around like so, and this would turn 180 degrees around like so. Ah,
exactly.
Already the dungeon has changed.
That's when the players go, uh-oh.
But yes, but to answer your original question, Mike, the Alembic, the map, the judge's map, is always directed by the Alembic Key. So however the players rotate this thing, throughout the adventure, the judge doesn't need to worry about it. He can always just say, okay, well, show me your artifact. Where are you guys at right now? And then you can spin the map to rotate it accordingly. Okay.
All right, and so the interior, the smaller spheres, always rotate 180 degrees whenever the larger sphere moves, correct?
Exactly. So so right now you have your elemental spheres facing out, right? Mm-hmm. Let me adjust my map so it matches with yours.
And my
so,
map too.
And so they're all facing out, but now your players, let's say they want to, they've explored that elemental sphere. They can't find their way back to the center Alembic, but at the same time, they don't want to. They want to spin everything, but keep the orientation the same. Well, being clever players that only Mike Curtis has, they would take their Alembic Key and spin it 360 degrees, right? So you spin this all the way around. It looks like the orientation's the same, and the big central sphere is the same, but because it's been spun, because it's been turned, all the elemental spheres now rotate once, 180 degrees, back to facing the center. And so that's a way that a clever group of players could possibly keep the map orientation the same while rotating the elemental spheres.
And Harley, how do the players discover this? Is it trial and error, or are there clues and puzzles they can unravel?
There's clues in it. I mean, to enter the dungeon itself, so they're being pursued by this enormous polar worm, right? It comes shooting out of the stones beneath. Well, actually, so they come up to these doors. There's 2 braziers placed up against the doors, and being murder hobos, they roll the braziers down from the doors. They come clattering down onto the stone floor, and that thunderous, sonorous sound brings up an enormous polar worm from below. It comes crashing down. Now the PCs are through the door. They're fleeing to the far side of the corridor, tear open those doors, and what comes clattering, kind of skittering out is 3 corpses and the Alembic Key.
Oh.
And so they're being pursued. So they're being pursued by this polar worm. They have this strange artifact, and then right in the moment, they're puzzling as the polar worm, boom, it just ate the halfling. Oh, the wizard's down. Oh my God, there's just 3 of us left. We finally get Void and Worm. Zoom, the whole thing opens. They flee inside. The polar worm is trapped outside, and now they're inside, and they're able to they have a moment to breathe. As they can rotate the sphere, and as they're there, and when you're in the center of the Alembic, when the spheres are facing in, there's 3 portals: earth, fire, and water, that are alive when the elemental spheres are facing in. You rotate it 180 degrees or whatever, you play with the Alembic Key, they face out, the portals die. And so by trial and error and deduction, and players being way smarter than we often give them credit for, they'll be able to kind of infer. But that's part of the mystery. It's like, oh, how do we do this? And then they step in and decide one elemental sphere, and this is happening. And so, yeah, using this puzzle is both the player's greatest challenge and also the really cool tool that they're going to use to hopefully avert the destruction of the multiverse as we know it.
So it would seem to be that if I was just a smart adventurer, I would I have basically my remote control here.
Yes.
To control the whole dungeon and everything. I could just sit there and play with it all day long. It'd be no problem whatsoever.
Right?
Eventually I would figure out how to get out. So obviously there's no downside.
No.
All right.
Right. Or let's say you've had 3 Red Bulls and you're playing like at a con game at 11 o'clock at night, and you pass it to that one kid who's just like twitchy. All right. So if you guys look to the large center sphere, you'll see that there's in the very center of the Alembic, there's these green clouds that are billowing up from below, and they're luminescent, this verdant, brilliant emerald green. And if you peer down into the base of the Alembic from atop those catwalks, or perhaps that center platform, you can see there's this frothing, sloshing sludge just like undulating thousands of feet below you. But Harley, the judge behind the screen, he rolled a 1d5. It came up a 1 this time. Michael Curtis's fighters, his warriors peeking up over the edge, and he sees this enormous wave come washing up from below, and it crests and it crashes against the catwalk. And but the halfling got caught again, and all of a sudden, he sees his soul, his personality just drained from him, and the halfling is less of a creature than he was before. As the Alembic Key is turned, as the Alembic itself is rotated, as the players attempt to solve these questions and problems and puzzles, slowly that star rot, that frothing tidal luminescent green sludge at the bottom is slowly being distilled. It's slowly being given definition and form. And so that if a player were to play with the Alembic Key too often, if a player character were to rotate the Grand Alembic too often, that star rot, that sludge slowly forms into a titanic. This was the goal of the Theophages. This titanic 4-headed dragon with a head composed of water, one of earth, one of fire, and one of chaos. That cracks free from the largest, Sagarmatha, the largest mountain in the known worlds, and proceeds to consume everything. So what you're trying to do is solve the puzzle in as few tries as possible. Essentially for each guess that a player makes, they derive some benefit, possibly turning the map to their advantage, but also their foe at the end is slowly evolving, slowly changing, gaining in powers. And so its minions are gaining in powers. And so you want to solve it as efficiently as it rewards being solved as efficiently as possible. But it's probably the most fun if you screw it up and just in the nick of time you figure it all out, and you get to the last battle of the adventure is literally with it's what we always promise in the boilerplate, right? It's a battle with a 4-headed dragon coming out from the base of the dungeon.
So it's almost like this is like an evil mixing bowl filled with like the raw ingredients of evil. And you want to avoid mixing it too much, because then you get like the evilest batter to form like the chaotic cake, which will rise up and destroy you.
It's a dragon cake. But yes, it's so the theophages, the god eaters. So their main plot is they're taking raw water and earth and fire, and they're combining them at the base of this alchemical mixing pot, and it's in a slowly given form, and there's just this tiniest dribble of chaos being added to this mix. And so what they're attempting to do is, by using those three elements, they're attempting to create a physical vehicle, a vessel that's devoid of soul. And so this vessel of flesh, which is this four-headed dragon, it serves as a lure, as bait, if you will, a place for chaos to find a home, because chaos exists outside of time. It has no means of actually entering the physical realm. But if you give it a soul as a vessel that it can, incarnate in, then it can enact its I think in the adventure we called it it's rules at the gates of creation. It gives this chaos an opportunity to enter into creation and thereby destroy it.